Hi guys, what we're going to do today is talk about this Lamborghini. It's the Lamborghini Diablo, as you probably know, but let me tell you a little introduction about Lamborghini. Most of you guys will probably think Lamborghini actually built his cars. Ferruccio, by the way, his name was. Ferruccio actually built his brand because he bought a Ferrari off Enzo, and he was dissatisfied with the poor quality build, and he was totally dissatisfied with it. Took the car back to Enzo, and basically Enzo said to him, well look, if you're not happy with the car, let me see you build one better. Now that is what they tell you, but the real story behind it is the fact that Ferruccio's missus ran off with Enzo, and to win her back he decided to make a car. His background is tractors, so how he come around to building a car, I really don't know. But this is one of the cars that he built in his day, when it was actually owned by Lamborghini themselves, or not some LBGT group, commonly known as the VW Audi group. This was actually by Lamborghini himself, Ferruccio, when this car was made, one of his last cars that was actually produced under the actual Lamborghini brand. Anyway, this particular car is actually your Lamborghini Diablo. It's the SV model in yellow. Now it's interesting that the paintwork on this car, you can probably see for a 1997 model, that makes it about a 22-year-old car. It actually is a 22-year-old car in August, which we're in August now anyway. But the paintwork, if you for cameraman, if you can just follow me, if you look at the paintwork on this car for a 22-year-old car, original paint is actually flawless. And the reason being why it's flawless is it's all down to the detail of the paint. Now this particular paint was actually mixed by a JCB. Now as you all probably know, JCB have all their trucks in yellow, and the reason why they have all the diggers and the excavators and the dumper trucks in yellow, because it's more durable. So Lamborghini thought to himself, Ferruccio thought to himself, well, why don't I do it? My cars are quite quick, and saves it getting old stone chips, we'll use the durable paint, and that is why it's in the condition it's in today, 22 years later. Okay, the actual model itself is the Diablo. Now that's another interesting fact why they call it a Diablo, which I've not actually unravelled yet, I'm still working on it. The car's manufactured in Italy by Italians, yet they name it a Diablo, which is the devil in Spanish. So that's a bit confusing, and then they use a bull as a symbol. Now, I'm a bit confused here. I'm not too sure why they use a bull. The story goes is they use the bullfighters or something along them lines, but it's got nothing to do with Italy. So you would have thought they should be proud. It's a proud moment in their lives that they put an Italian flag on it or something, but anyway, who knows. Anyway, this Diablo is the SV variant of it, and that actually stands for slow vehicle. Now over here in the UK, when we have a long vehicle, normally we have a big sign saying it's a long vehicle, and what the Italians have done, again, they've put a sticker on the back in case when somebody goes past it's driving, so they know it's a slow vehicle so they can overtake it. So that covers that part of it. Now this car was designed in the August period of every year. They only make them in August. Again, that's because Italy actually, all the manufacturing departments, all the factories and everything actually shut down in August for about 6 to 7 week period. And what the Italians, they have a law in Italy, while the factories shut down, no matter which manufacturing industry, whether it's car parts or clothing or any sort of manufacturing, in fact, any industry, they have to take a break between 6 and 8 weeks. And the reason behind that is because they look after the homeless people there, they look after the drunks, they look after the drug addicts. What they're trying to do is introduce them back into work. So, it's more cost effective later on in life that, they've got more employment, people working, more people working than people not working. So they introduced all the drunks and the layabouts and all the homeless people into the factory, and this is the end result. As you can see, this is exactly what happens when you let people who don't know what they're doing building a car. Now most of us would normally, when you go to a door, you'd open a door this way. But the drunks being drunks, what they decided to do, put the doors upwards. Now, which idiot will put a door going upwards opposed to open it as you would normally? The other thing is, when you're getting in, these are just a couple of mistakes that they made, but you know, God loves a tryer. The drunks and the alcoholics and the drug users tried their best. Now, most of us would normally lean over this way and pull the belt over this way, but not these people. They've actually put them here, so you have to follow over this way. Can't get my head around that. Anyway, it doesn't just stop there. If you could just come around this side, as you can see, a lot of you won't understand what this is. Now, this is called a gear knob, and again, bless them, what the I don't know, homeless people decided to do when they were building this car, they'd had one too many. So normally a normal car would start, the first gear would be there, but on this one it goes down and then up and then down. So your first gear is down and then your second gear, but normally your first gear would be up and the second gear would be down. But those that don't know these kind of gearboxes, I'll explain to you a bit later on in the video. Now, some people said this is a dog box, some people call it as a cat box. I'm not too sure either, to be honest. I just thought it's a bit of a shambles. I normally, when I drive a manual gearbox, I've always had the first gear up, second gear down, third and fourth and so on. Anyway, and I'll tell you another mistake that they made while we're at it. Oh, God, why'd you do this now? Oh, just bear with me. That's it, okay. Here we go. Oh, by the way, I forgot all about this. Just come out a minute. What they did get right, they wrapped the whole car in this Alcantara. The dash, the seats, and they've even introduced a stitch in there, so it just reminds you that it's a slow vehicle. And once again, put a bull, sign of a bull there for unknown reason. But it's beautiful, Alcantara, hand stitch, all the way around. This seat, the passenger seat, the roof lining, they've probably murdered about 10 bulls to get the suede Alcantara out of them. Anyway, as I was talking to you, the other problem what they decided to do, well, what they realised after was, if I can open this, whichever way it opens, is, oh, let me take this box. As you can see, there's no engine in here. They totally forgot to put the engine there, where the engine should go. So what they decided to do, put the engine in the back for some unknown reason. And the engine is a bit it's quite a big engine actually. I think it's out of one of his tractors. I'll show you the engine anyway if you follow me around the back. We'll come back to the cat box or the dog box or whatever it's known as. This is the engine. The engine's around the back. Well, half around the back anyway. And this is the engine. It's out of one of his tractors. It's I think it's a 1.5 litre, what they also shared in the Fiat 500, I think it is this is shared with. And there's not really much else I can tell you about this, the engine, apart from one crucial part of what they did in this car, which is genius. Now, this car is aimed for the British market, being on the right-hand side, well, mainly for the UK market, this one was. And those of you that are familiar with the UK and that live here, this country loves the tea. Everything is based around cup of tea, cup of tea, cup of tea. And as you've probably noticed, what they didn't do, they didn't put any cup holders at all. So what they did on this one, everybody likes drinking tea. So what they did, they actually introduced these as cup holders. But not just ordinary cup holder, one goes there, and then the other one goes into there. Now, that's your cup holders, but what the ingenious thing was here, when you shut the lid, because tea's always hot, as you go to Costa Coffee or Starbucks or whatever you drink your coffee from, if you come around this side, I'll tell you what happens. You sit in your car, you're trying to drink your tea, you can't drink your tea. So what these guys engineered, if you come around to this side, you'll have to come around this side, what these guys have introduced here is air intakes from the top. So that directly forces air into here, through there, and if you look again, you'll have to come around this side. And the chamber, as it goes through there, comes straight through here and straight on top of your tea. Which, by the time you pull over, you'll have a nice cold cup of tea. Geniuses, aren't they? God loves the Italians, don't they? If it wasn't for the Italians, we won't be able to have our tea, would we? You think about it, on your way to work in a rush, you want to have your cup of tea, but you can't have your cup of tea because it's too hot. These guys thought of it for you. You pop it in there, shut your lid. As you're driving, it'll cool it down. That's your engine for you. Now, the other thing I want to talk to you about with this car is, it's actually a 22-year-old car. And being a 22-year-old car, the figures are unbelievable. The figures on this car is something along the region of 0 to 60 is just shy of 4 seconds. The top speed on this car, I think, is about 204 miles an hour. Now, these sort of speeds were done in 1997. So when you think about it, the latest and the greatest cars today, the equivalent, I mean, this car would have been back in its day in 1997, I think it was somewhere in the range of about £155,000 it was. So 22 years on, what would you say? £300,000? Because it's not a hypercar, it's a supercar. So in today's monetary terms, we would say it'll be something in the region of between 300 or we'll even go up to 350,000. So the nearest car to us around at 350,000, I'd say, is the Lamborghini Aventador SV. So they're both SV Challengers, and the top end on an Aventador is around the 220 mark. And I'd say that I think the 0 to 62 times is something in the region of about 2.6, maybe 2.7. Now, if this car 22 years ago was doing speeds of 204 miles an hour and 0 to 60 times in a manual man's gearbox, not a pussy faggot gearbox, in a manual man's gearbox, even though the box is upside down, cat box or dog box they call it, and this will crack in the 0 to 60 in sub 4 seconds, it makes you think, has technology gone forward with supercars, or has technology gone backwards with supercars? It's an interesting thought, that, isn't it? 22-year-old car that's doing 204 miles an hour, 0 to 62 in about just shy of 4 seconds, and we have cars today, the latest and greatest cars, with pussy faggot gearboxes, with V12 engines, which this has still got the V12 engine, and this does 204 miles an hour and that does 220. So basically what's going on here is, in 22 years, it's took certain companies, and I'm not just saying this because it's Lamborghini, it's the same with Ferrari and McLaren and all the other car manufacturers. In 20 years plus, they've managed to shave off 2.5 seconds or 1.5 seconds in 0 to 60 times, 62 times, and managed to squeeze out another 16 miles per hour on top end. In 20 years, that works out something like, they've managed to find something like 0.7 from miles per hour, 0.7. In 20 years they've achieved. It's not looking good for supercars, really, is it, if you base it on that? But here we go. This is the Lamborghini Diablo, the slow vehicle, not super, that's the hypercar, isn't it? We'll talk about that a bit later on. In JCB yellow, and made by the drunks in the month of August by the Italians. So my advice to you guys is, if you're looking for a car, do not buy an Italian car, especially in the month of August, because you know it's all going to be built by the drunks. On that note, I'll say goodbye and all the best.